Hey YouTube, Christina K here from WriteYourBestBook.com. And as you can see from the caption, today I am talking to you about all those writerly feels. What do I mean by writerly feels? You're probably asking, right? Give me a second and I'll tell you all about it. Okay, but before we get there, I want to ask you a big favor. Please be sure to subscribe. Hit that little subscribe button. Do it right now. Hurry, hit it. We're new, as you can see. We're not new on TikTok or anywhere else. We've been there for a while, but we're new to YouTube and we could use your support. Really could. So be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. Check out all our channels or playlists, because on this channel, we've got writing tips and tricks right here. Then we also have another playlist where we interview on our podcast some of the biggest writing influencers and experts in the market, okay? So we've got, for example, Dave Chesson, Jeff Goins, Jane Friedman, Joanna Penn, you name them, they're on there. So hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode that gets released. All right, time to define my newly coined term, all those writerly feels. So when I talk about writerly feels, I'm not talking about the regular, everyday, literal medical, mental conditions that and I'm not making fun, that a lot of authors deal with every day. Again, not making fun, it's serious stuff. ADD, OCD, anxiety, depression, and beyond that, some of us are just introverts. I mean, there's all kinds of things that a lot of writers actually have to deal with, more so than I think other professions. But that's not what we're talking about today. Those things are going to be there. I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist. I have no medical training, so I can't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I've been an author coach and a book editor and an author myself for over 10 years. So I totally know all these writerly feels. I know everything about them because I've experienced them or I have helped my clients process these writerly feels. So let's take it. I think I have like 8 of them. We're gonna go through them each one by one, really briefly. I'll tell you what it is, how it manifests, and how you can cope. Writerly feel number 1. And I made this term up too, I'm kind of proud of it. Okay, it's called inspiration intimidation. All right, so what is it? That is exactly what it sounds like. Maybe it sounds like nothing to you, but to me, it means when we are so intimidated by all the things that we've got going on, and it makes us a little nervous, it completely interferes with our inspiration. So inspiration goes out the window, right? That's what I think inspiration intimidation means. Now, how does it manifest? It's when you're sitting there at your desk or wherever you write and you want to write. The want is there, the need is even there, but you just can't get inspired. Like you just feel kind of bummed, or you just feel like deflated and not really energetic about your writing, which you should feel every day. Well, maybe not every day, but most days you should feel really happy and energetic about your writing. It should be your passion. All right, so that is how it manifests. Now, how do you cope with, I have to even remind myself, inspiration intimidation? You have to get inspired again. And how do you do that? There are 2 ways. One way is an external fix. The other is internal. Internally, the fix is to practice, as corny as it sounds, positive self-talk and manifestation. So instead of getting all in your feels and in your head about how you're not inspired and blah, you're not as good as everybody else, instead, talk over that. Talk over yourself and say, no, I like to write. I love to write. I want to be a writer. I want to be successful. So in order to do that, I got to quit my whining, quit my pouting, and I need to sit down in the chair and write. Okay? And I know I make it sound easier than it is, but it's not easy, but you do have to do it. You practice it, and then eventually it becomes the truth and you manifest the feelings you really want to feel. Okay, how do you externally deal with it? This is where you have to do things. You have to proactively do things to get yourself inspired again. Top 2, let's say 2 ways that I believe that all my clients, I tell them the best way to get inspired again when you suffer writer's block, when you're not inspired, whatever the case may be. First, read. Oh no, let's make it 3. I got another one. First, read. Read in your chosen genre, because let's not waste, you can read for leisure, whatever you want, but for this purpose, read in your chosen genre. So if you're writing fantasy, read fantasy. Writing suspense, read suspense. And what I want you to do is read it again for inspiration. Don't just enjoy it and kick back. I'm talking highlighters, I'm talking pens, I'm talking Post-it notes, planners, all the things, okay? And I want you to go through and study. Look at the way that this awesome, totally successful, well-known author, whoever it may be, has written this great book. How do they turn a phrase? How do they put the scene together? And that, believe it or not, if you look at it through that perspective, will inspire you, because you're going to want to be like, I want to do that too. Promise it'll help. And that is how you overcome and deal with inspiration, intimidation. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, writerly feels number 2 is social isolation / loneliness. Now, if you're a writer at all, even if you just started, I'm pretty sure you can identify with this one, right? Because a lot of writers are introverts. I, believe it or not, used to be. I had to get over myself. And that changed over time, but it took hard practice and work. But since we're introverts for the most part, it's easy, really easy for us to fall into social isolation. And that's not our fault. It's not their fault either. It just is what it is. But what is isolation, social isolation? It's that feeling that you have when everybody else is having a good time and doing what you want to do, i.e. writing, becoming successful authors, tagging each other on Facebook, whatever the case may be, and here you are sitting alone in your little writer's nook with your kitty cat over here and your blanket over your shoulders and your fuzzy socks trying to write. And it feels lonely, especially here's how it manifests. How does it manifest? It's when you go online, you're trying to write, get distracted, hop on over to TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, and you see all your colleagues, all of the other writers that you know, even if it's just through social media, and they're tagging each other and they're sharing content and they're collaborating even, or they're like having a good time, it seems like, and you're like, I'm trying to write here and I don't, but as much as you know you're probably doing the right thing because you're focusing on writing, it still makes you feel lonely. It still makes you feel like isolated. So how do you cope with social isolation and loneliness? Well, you're not gonna like this answer, but you're gonna have to make an effort to come out of your shell, and you're gonna have to make an effort to socialize. Go into these Facebook groups, or listen, I'm telling you, you know me, TikTok is my jam now. Love my TikTokers. For whatever reason, you can blow up on TikTok 10,000 times faster and easier and better than any other social platform. Like right now, as of the date of this video, I've only been on the platform 8-9 months, and we're at 85,000 followers, 1.5 million video likes. And it's not just about that. It's about the community and the positivity that's on TikTok compared to the just negative cesspool that is Facebook. However, I will say there is some benefit. If you can find the right Facebook writers group, find a good writers group there, or on Twitter, or even Instagram under the hashtag groups. Whatever you do, do find a good group. We have one at Write Your Best Book. It's called Book Boss Academy, and there should be a link in the description below, but if not, you can find it on our website or look us up, Book Boss Academy. Join it, we'll let you in. We want to keep it small so that it doesn't turn into thousands of people just being mean and nasty to each other, but you're welcome to join. Okay, so as I'm saying, you need to step out of your shell, join a writers group. Even though we're in the middle of a pandemic still, you can still find even virtual writing groups, socialize, get to know other writers, because the other added benefit to doing this is not only will you feel less isolated and less lonely, you may learn some from your writing colleagues, from their experience, from their setbacks, from their failures. You can maybe learn from that, and vice versa. So definitely want to overcome social isolation and loneliness. Let's move on. We're on three is my favorite to talk about almost, perfectionism. Okay, well, let's define it even though you know what perfectionism is. Perfectionism is when your work has got to be perfect. In your mind, it's got to be perfect. And it never is. It's never good enough. That's perfectionism. How does it manifest itself? Usually, you know you're suffering from perfectionism when you are writing and you're having self-doubt thoughts throughout the process. This isn't good enough. That sentence sucks. I gotta delete it. Delete. Or backspace. Delete the whole sentence. Start over again. And you spend 10, 15, 20 minutes or longer trying to get that one sentence nailed down. Perfectionism. Listen, guys, let me tell you a little something. And this is jumping ahead of how to cope. Well, let's just get into that. How do you cope? So this is what I want you to know. You only need to write one draft. Sorry, I was hanging up because I was trying to decide if I wanted to say that or not. A lot of people don't agree with me, but I personally believe you only need one good, well-written, well-edited draft. Beyond that, there's this school of thought, and it's kind of an old school thought, that makes writers, especially when you're in high school and college, they teach you that your first line of your book has to be profoundly beautiful. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You know what your first line of your book needs to do and be? It needs to not suck. And it needs to grab the reader's attention and at the same time, give them a little bit of a grounding in what this book is going to be about and where the characters are, whatever. I know that sounds like a lot, but believe it or not, it's not that difficult. It's a lot easier to write that than it is to tell yourself you have to write the best, most beautiful, perfect, profound sentence ever. That's not true. I don't think that's true. And beyond that first sentence, it goes through the first scene and the first chapter and then to the whole book. It doesn't have to be perfect because guess what? It's never going to be perfect. In your eyes, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be good enough. So how do you cope? You got to, once again, practice better self-talk, positive self-talk. Do not, whatever you do, let yourself keep deleting and rewriting and deleting and rewriting before making any progress whatsoever. Because there you go, that's what happens. You don't make progress. There is a quote by Jodi Picoult that's one of my favorites. It's simple, but it's profound in my opinion. You can edit a bad page, but you cannot edit a blank page. And that's so true, and it goes to perfectionism so well. So that is how you cope with perfectionism. Just tell yourself, I'm gonna write this first draft, just get it down on the page, and then here's where people get upset. Write the manuscript draft, write it, get it down on the page. Shouldn't take you more than a few weeks, few months. Get it done, then let go and let God. Or the universe, or whatever you believe in. I'm down with that, whatever. But just let it go. It'll never be perfect, at least in your eyes. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, I'm gonna quit counting because I'm losing my place. Next, overwhelm. All right, what is overwhelm? You've all felt it. You may not know what I'm talking about, but you have felt it. Overwhelm is exactly what it sounds like. When it's just, you get so much information from all these writing sources, and if you're on YouTube, I'm part of it. I'm one of the voices telling you, here's how you write, here's how you do it. But that can be overwhelming. It can be too much information coming from too many different sources, and it can interfere with your creative process. The other definition, in my opinion, of overwhelm is when the information in your head internally, not just from experts, but like your story ideas, your characters, all those things, there's so much of that going on out there, you get overwhelmed by that. And that can cause a problem. All right, so that's that. How does it manifest? Very badly. When you get overwhelmed, regardless of the source, we shut down. That's the most common reaction by all my clients. When they feel overwhelmed, I can see them shut down. So don't let it overwhelm you. There is a way, and I'm going to address both of them, both sources. For both sources of overwhelm, there's a way to handle it. And one of them is kind of controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. All right, how do you cope with overwhelm? If we're talking about overwhelm that comes from all the thoughts in your head and the character ideas and all the things that are so much that it's overwhelming and then you shut down, the way to cope with that is outlining. I know, but hear me out. Even if you're a pantser, you don't have to convert to plotting. Not going to try to make you go there, but hear me out. At least write down before you go into the actual sit down and write part. Go in there and write down 3 basic act. Like, you don't have to plot it out. Just write act 1, protagonist does this. Act 2, protagonist is on her journey and she does this. Act 3, protagonist is on her way home, whatever, okay? 1 or 2 sentences. That, get your basic idea down, right? Save it, set it aside. Then I want you to write a basic, very simple plotting outline that I personally do with my clients on a Google Sheet. So easy. Literally, it breaks you down into chapters in one column, the POV of the character in the second, if you alternate POVs, and then one row, one little line, one sentence of what happens in every single chapter. You do not have to get into every scene. You do not have to go into big detail. Shouldn't take you more than a few hours, maybe a day, to do a good outline. Next, do a character sketch for all of your main characters. By main characters, I mean protagonist, antagonist, maybe the sidekick, and maybe the love interest. Everyone else, you don't have to do this, but do a character sketch and outline all the things that we've talked about before and how to develop your characters. One more thing, do your setting. Plan out your setting on a 3rd document, call it good. Guess what? Now that you've decided all those things in advance, you're done. It's taken you, if anything, a day. And now your brain is freed up and you're not overwhelmed and you can write. All right, so now, the last thing, if the source of your overwhelm is all the information that is coming at you on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest and just online from me and everybody else who claims to be an expert, I have an answer for you. And you may or may not like it, and some people are gonna get pissed off that are my colleagues, but it is what it is. Pick one expert to listen to and shut everyone else out. I know that's controversial. You're not probably gonna like it, but hear me out. I'm not saying never ever listen to or read any blogs or podcasts from anybody else. I'm talking about who you actually subscribe to their method. You see what I'm saying? So obviously not me, I'm not there yet, but let's say Jeff Goins, great guy, or Shayla Raquel, great girl. There's so many, I can't name them all. But whoever it is, first go online, pick your top few that you really love listening to or reading about or whatever, and you want to make sure that you resonate with, or that their story and their voice resonates with you. If it does, then narrow it down to your favorite 2 or 3. After that, here's what I want you to do, and this is where the controversy kicks in. I want you to investigate them. That's right, I said it. I want you to investigate them. And you know what? I'm standing by it. Because you know what? You can investigate me right now all day long. I don't care. I have nothing to hide. But what I mean by that is, obviously don't go and take up their physical address and go knock on their door. That's not what I meant. What I mean is investigate their background, their history. How long have they been doing this expert thing? How did they come to become an expert? Have they ever written a book? And if they did write a book, did it only get 3 stars on Amazon and no reviews? There's a couple out there, I won't name them, but there's a couple out there, and they're experts. So please just make sure that the experts that you're listening to, that you're actually implementing their advice and their methods in your own writing. Look at their website, Google them online, read their social media profiles. Don't just read their bio, look through their profiles. And the one thing you want to look for, do they interact with their fans, followers, readers, whatever you want to call them? There's a couple big people out there that I will not name, but refuse to interact. Okay? They just won't. And why not? Why not? There's something up there. Bottom line, pick one person after you've done a little bit of research for a couple hours, don't make a big deal out of it, that says, okay, I like this person's method. I think they know what they're talking about. They have a good background. They published a book. They know their stuff. I'm going to listen to them. Now, again, reiterating, I'm not saying don't listen to anybody else ever. Still, read all the blogs, listen to the podcast, read the books, do it all. But when it comes to like subscribing to one particular person's method, you cannot do all that. You can't do the way Jeff Goins says and the way that I say and the way James Friedman says. You can't. That's all I'm saying. That will help you reduce the outside source overwhelm. Let's keep moving. And finally, here's our last one. The last writerly feel that you will struggle with is fear of rejection. I don't really have to define that, do I? But let's do it anyway. What is fear of rejection? It's that feeling that you get when it's time, or even if it's not time, but you're just thinking ahead of the moment when you have to let that book baby out into the universe and someone's gonna read it. And the fear comes in when you think they're gonna hate it. I'm not gonna get an agent, I'm not gonna get a publisher, the readers are gonna hate it, they're gonna hate it. Fear of rejection. How does it manifest? It manifests by you're writing, you're either done and now it's time to query and you freeze, don't want to do it, you decide not to, shut down. It can even happen in your first chapter of your book because you're thinking ahead and you think that you're writing. It kind of ties in with like imposter syndrome and all the other things we did talk about earlier. Guess what? Here's the thing. Here's how you cope. That's how it manifests. You just freak out and you shut down because you're afraid of what might happen regarding rejection of your novel. Okay? Here's how you cope. You've got to do it anyway, right? Ooh, that sounds so easy for you to say. But seriously, here's the thing. If you never, ever put your book out in there into the world, then you guaranteed 1000% will never be successful. You will never be a published author. You just won't. Because why? You gave up. You were afraid of rejection. You were afraid someone was not going to like it, make fun of you, whatever the case may be. So you shut down, you gave up, and you walked away, and you never made it. But if you continue, and if you try, and you take that leap of faith, and you take that chance, is there a chance you still might not be successful? Yeah, there is, okay? There is. If you do all the things you're supposed to do, then you're going to be more likely to succeed. However, there's another thing that I think that gets into writers' minds and causes this fear of rejection. It's when they see the Sarah J. Maas's and the Cassandra Clares and the Stephen Kings and the whoever's out there that are well-known, established, traditionally published authors. And they see them and they think, oh my God, I could never write like that. Their readers love them. If I put my work out, not only will they not love it, they're going to reject it. They're going to hate it. I'm going to get bad reviews. They're going to tear me to shreds. But guess what? There's something that I want you to remember, and then we'll close it out for today. When you are comparing yourself to Sarah J. Maas, Cassandra Clare, because I see it all the time with my TikTokers, guess what? You are seeing the very best work, the very best version of the very best book, written by the very best writers, in their very best moment, and edited by the very best editors. Does that make sense? Basically what I'm saying is you are never going to see Maas's very first draft of the first book, whether it's the first one we've seen or not, the very first draft of the very first book she ever read. It's somewhere. It's on her hard drive, buried deep down in there in the back resources or recesses. It's in there, but it will never see the light of day. You will never see the worst of their work. Or not even the worst, but their not perfect work. They would never let you do that. And that's rightfully so. I wouldn't want anybody to see my not so perfect work either. However, that tells you something, right? You're judging and comparing yourself. You're judging yourself and comparing yourself to an unrealistic, standard, unrealistic goals because of course it's perfect looking because it's the 15th version of it that's been thoroughly edited by editors who cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And, you know, they've also been writing for so many years now. They've had plenty of practice. Stop comparing yourself and thinking that just because you don't write like Cassandra Clare, Sarah J. Maas, or whoever else, that you're going to be rejected. Not true. You have to take that leap of faith. Sure, there's a chance you might get rejected. But if you keep going and you keep going and you keep going, you will eventually not be rejected. Someone, somewhere, whether it's an agent, whether it's a reader and you're whether you're an indie author and it's that first reader fan, whoever it is, someone somewhere is going to one day find your book. As long as you don't give up and you keep trying and you put it out there, someone somewhere will find that book and they will fall in love with it and they will become a stark raving lunatic hyper super fan. I'm telling you, it will happen. Now, they may be one of 3, but they're a fan, okay? And guess what? That's important. And you know why? Because that one fan will tell their friend, who will tell their friend, and so on and so on and so on. Listen, guys, having that one first fan, starting with that first book, getting one good reader, that is the seed that you plant and you nurture and you water, and then eventually it sprouts and it grows into this thing that we call success. So I'm going to end it on that note, and I just want to say one final thing. Okay, listen to me. All these things we talked about, these writerly feels, the last point I want to drive home is that none of them are your fault. They're all involuntary. Just like any emotion that you feel, you're not to blame for your emotions or your emotional reaction to something. You are, though, responsible for how you react to and handle said emotion. So it's not your fault that you feel isolated. It's not your fault that you feel like nobody supports you, because maybe you do have unsupportive family members that don't understand your desire to be a writer. Who knows what the case may be? Any of those feels I just listed, none of them are your fault. They came upon you involuntarily, born of insecurity, born of any other ongoing conditions that you already deal with, born of society telling us we're never going to be good enough, born of all the things. Whatever it is, it's not your fault. It's involuntary, but you absolutely do have complete control over how you choose to respond and react to any of these writerly feels. All right, so it's on you, nobody else, it's on you to start practicing positive self-talk when it comes to yourself as a writer, and to try to manifest. I know I'm not a hippie, I promise. I don't do crystals, but I believe in the power of manifestation. You want to have it happen, you want it to be you want to one day be successful, then you got to speak it into existence. You got to practice, you got to do all the things, get a vision board, whatever it takes. Don't give up. Don't get all in your feels. And don't let those writerly feels totally wash over you, make you shut down, and miss out on what could potentially be the career, the life, everything you've always dreamed of as a writer. All right? Now, don't forget, if you like this advice, if you like my rants about all things writing, and you want to work with an author coach like me, or if you just want some advice, check out our website, writeyourbestbook.com. There's all kinds of resources on there. There's places that'll direct you to how to contact me. Everything you need is on that website. The link is in the description of this video and also for our channel. And lastly, if you wouldn't mind, please be a dear and go follow us on other social media accounts. We're everywhere at Write Your Best Book. All right, guys, talk to you soon. And in the meantime, go write your best book.